step in to run this meeting. I don't think there's anything that Sarah specifically had in her court. And to the extent that we chance across something, we need to defer that for a couple of weeks. First, let's jump into the minutes, the May 17th, 2022 minutes. Any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes?
It looks great.
No? Okay, and look for a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase.
Chase Kervig, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, Amy, it's balls in your court. We'll jump into the administrative discussion.
All right, the first one up is the land use permit request for a story walk at Yap by the library. I think Melinda's here and just give you a quick rundown of what they're planning.
Hey guys, so we have done several story walks with the library over the years, and for this year we are trying to do 2 of them, but the first one is up at the end of June, and we're looking to get the permission to do a story walk at Yap, and basically we're doing a short loop to make sure that young kids will get through there without too much difficulty. The idea is, you know, and Diane Haddock and I have already been working on this, but we take apart a book, we put it onto placards, the stakes are put into the ground in regular intervals, and the kids walk through and read the placards, the whole book that way. It's been really well received in the past. What Diane has mentioned is that we used to do like a one day or a short weekend, and it's worked out better to have it up for longer so more people can enjoy it. So we're looking to have it up for a week. They go up, the signs disappear at the end of the week. So any questions?
I was actually wondering if the commission, you've certainly seen these before, if you might be amenable to either making this sort of a 3-year permit and I can just approve them as they come up, or just give me the right to approve these things, because they're all very similar, and to have to make them trot in here every time gets a little much. But
I'd like to make a motion to have Amy approve them. And I really actually enjoy them. I think they're great.
Yeah, I agree with Carl. Having 2 young kids, we've visited most of them, if not all of them. So
This one is going to be a fun one. It's called Be a Tree. But it's a really lovely book. I mean, you know, Diane discovered it. We had a whole slew of them that we reviewed before we chose this one. So.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second. All right, roll call vote. Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase.
Chase Kervig, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Request for COCs, 3 different requests. I'll take us through that.
Yeah, there's 3 Sawyer, and that had been the sort of emergency order conditions when their culvert kind of collapsed and their driveway started falling into the culvert. And that is all done and stabilized very quickly. Ditto 3 Lowry Lane was a pool, and that's stabilized. 213 Harwood, you can tell by the number, was a very old one. And it did include a wetland creation area. And I walked all these sites, but that one in particular. And the wetland mitigation area is in there and looking good and amazingly invasive free right now.
Nice.
So your recommendation, Amy, is to issue the COCs for each of these?
Yeah, and frankly, I see no reason unless someone objects, you can't move these all in one vote.
I'll make a motion that the board issues certificates of compliance for the 3 aforementioned orders of condition.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Brian,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Carl. Oh, Carl, you're on mute.
Hang on, I'm unmuted. Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Matulay.
Michael. Oh, Michael, you're on mute.
The keyboard thing didn't work. Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase.
Chase Garvey, guy.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Hmm. 15 Douglas Road. I'm looking for an update.
Just further update on that. That was the deck that was built without a permit, and he came back in. So it is all done. Grass needs to grow a little bit more, and then he'll be in for a certificate of compliance too. So just to keep you up to date on that.
Okay, so he's coming in to close that out at some point.
He will be, yeah.
Native Pollinator Task Force Garden to
This
you
is
got some slides up.
the next one. I don't know if any of you are even in town hall have noticed I've been trying to get monthly slides up. There's a TV screen in the hallway when you first walk in. So they go through. Last month's was wetlands. May was wetlands month. So there's one slide on that. And then this month I put in for pollinators. So LCTV has a series of slides up on this, and the library also has the same one over there. And the Metro West Conservation Alliance Native Pollinator Task Force is having garden tours of areas within, I think, at least 7 or 8 towns that are kind of meeting their criteria for doing pollinator gardens that help with the bees that are at risk. So on June 23rd, we're having from 4 to 6, there's going to be basically open house at Cloverdale to come see the weeds, and at the library to check out all the planting. So I'll be the tour guide at the library, and Tracy McCursky is going to do Cloverdale for us. No registration needed or anything, but just to let you know what's going on.
Awesome. Amy, would you mind, if you think of it, before that actually happens, to send out an email to remind us?
Absolutely.
And by us, I'm really talking about.
I'll send it all to you. And LCT has it up. It's up on Littleton Trails Facebook page, and the Acton Conservation Trust, which has a big email newsletter that comes out weekly, has it on there as well. And the library has put it up on their information board as well. So, and this in particular at the library is certainly been in collaboration with the library. And they bought some books. They're going to help get the things, educational materials put up out front. They might look into seeing if they can get someone to do labels on the plants if I can't get to it. So we're working together to get this going. Which sort of leads, unless someone's got anything else on that. That kind of leads into the invasive species management update, and just another integration with the library. They have the library of things, which I didn't even know about, with things like sewing machines, or if you want to check something out. So we're actually seeing if they or me or whoever can purchase a extractigator, the weed puller, the weed wrench, so that members of the public can basically check it out and take it home for 2 weeks or however long they need it, and pull out their things, and then see if maybe as part of the fee for doing that, they can do the same thing on some conservation land before they return it.
That's great.
Yeah, there's been a lot of interest in the invasive species management in general. You know, nobody wants to go buy the weed wrench for themselves because hopefully you're not going to be using it for too long. So this seems like a really good possible solution. And it would be just hard for me to track who has it and who doesn't. So we'll see if that works out. And on the invasive species, we actually did, and I think Rick Finley's here, a pretty good job this year of getting the garlic mustard even more off the ground with a lot of pools and some signs out there. We still need to work on what disposal is going to be like. The Browns Woods Phragmites treatment, the last treatment under the grant is going to happen this June. And then the Clean Lakes Committee is actually going to pick up the tab for future years, which will be very small hand swiping stuff to make sure that it's under control. And again, with the trust, we're working on the Sudbury Valley Trustees Weed Warrior program to try to do more training for people to know what these plants look like and how to get rid of them. Hopefully get some people certified so they can spread out and start working certainly on private lands, but as well as public lands. And Rick and I also met with someone from Land Stewardship Inc., who are the folks who are doing the Phragmites on Browns Wood, just to kind of look at a few areas and get her feedback on what she thinks might be good priority bang for the buck kind of areas to deal with. You know, there's only so much we can do with volunteers and hand pulling. And it might be worth considering getting a little more serious on a yearly basis. So we looked at the Phragmites is coming into Cloverdale, which would be a terrible thing if that got further than it is right now. All the invasives that are on the tree line over at Newtown Hill, and probably most especially the bittersweet, which is going to start, if it hasn't already, killing the trees in there, and also maybe some additional stuff at Browns Woods.
Amy, how effective was the Phragmites treatment at Browns Woods? I haven't paid particular attention to it.
Yeah, if you drive by, you'll see it is very stunted. It's only just starting to emerge now, so they will be going in. She thinks it's probably just going to be hand swiping at this point. You know, no, not necessarily backpack spraying, but it depends. If they're near other vegetation, they just hand swipe. If it's out in the core, they do a little bit more spraying, but it's worked pretty well so far. We actually did look at another Phragmites patch in that area up on Long Lake that is privately integrated native vegetation. So I'm not sure if there's much we do about trying to keep that one in check.
Would our approach at Cloverdale look a lot like the approach at Browns Woods, or would it be substantially different?
It would be the same. There's 4 or 5 patches out there. I don't think we go for all at the same thing. If the commission or the community or however you want to, approach this wants to move ahead, I would almost recommend kind of a rolling treatment out there, because it's going to take more than 1 year. 1 year you can attack patch 1. The next year you can kind of clean up patch 1 and start on patch 2, or something like that. So it's only small areas at a time. But all these would need permitting anyway, because they're all at least in the buffer zone. Well, Newtown Hill would not be in the buffer zone, but so you might be hearing more about that. But if anybody has any concerns or ideas or something, by all means, let me know.
Is that permitting something that we could get out of the way? Maybe not quite the right turn of phrase, but get out of the way sooner rather than later, given that we know what the applicant.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Stowe has a generic order conditions, but I believe that's for hand pulling of stuff in wetlands, and so it might be a little bit like what you're doing for Mattawanaki for the mats. at this point, I have no idea where we're going to be doing it, so I can't do it. With the boardwalks, I could get a lot of stuff out of the way ahead of time. Which are good for 3 years. Not quite ready to do that here yet. And I'm going to talk to, once we get going, talk to DEP or other agents and see, do you really have to do this every single time with, $500 in notifications and all the rest of it? So,
Right. Can we get a townwide general permit?
yeah, something, which I think he'll probably hate, but
It sounds like the kind of thing that'd be good to get the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts involved with. Give them a significant project towards one of their badges or levels, and a good opportunity to learn as well.
yeah, there's definitely, the garlic mustard pooling is a pretty easy thing, and it's a pretty easy plant to identify. The problem with kids sometimes is A, they might just pull out everything, and B, there's ticks and poison ivy in most of these places.
Oh, that's a different thing.
Trying to be a little judicious, but there also may be a lot of opportunity for planting more pollinators, both at the library and at Cloverdale.
There you go.
Plugs put in and maintained.
We still have a few things on the administrative agenda, but I also think some of these things coming up are may not take the full 15 minutes. So what I propose is that we table the rest of the administrative agenda and move into 149 to Hadawan. Anybody here to speak to 149 to Hadawan?
I think Ted is on a call. If that's his.
Is that Ted on the phone?
It is Ted on the phone.
Hello, Ted Doucette here.
Hey, Ted. Okay. So last time, 3 weeks ago when we had this up, we scheduled a site walk. We had also discussed potentially relocating the stockpile area from the back of the site to be more towards the front of the site and outside of the resource area, or farther away from the resource area. Ted, do you want to speak to sort of where we got to, and then I'll reach out to the commissioners to see what their findings were from the sidewalk.
Yeah, so I didn't hear a lot of what you said. I heard it, but it was very muffled. Amy seems to be coming across very clear. So if I missed something here, or if she has any clarification, maybe try to have Amy interpret or something. But yeah, we have the plan. It was reviewed at the hearing. I don't believe there were any major comments. I don't think there were any comments about it. And we went to the sidewalk, and one commissioner showed up. I went out and I staked everything that was requested, and then met the commissioner out there, and everything. There were no questions. There were less trees taken down once we laid it out by instrument that would need to be taken down. So that was good news for the homeowner. And yeah, we're just requesting negative determination.
Before we get to the sidewalk, one of the comments last time, and it's recorded in our minutes, is that we had indicated that stockpiling behind the house would not be allowed, and I wonder if you could speak to that particular discussion from 3 weeks ago, and if that's a change that you're proposing in the plan.
Why? It was the question why it wasn't put out in front of the house?
No, the stockpiling behind the house, down sort of near the tanks.
I think I removed that from the revised plan, didn't I, Amy? I'm sorry, I'm calling in remotely. I'm calling in remotely. I think they were put. Yeah.
I am just showing the old. I think just is put it in the order condition, or a condition of the RDA.
Yeah, I believe that was all changed. I'm sorry, I'm remote right now. I'm in Florida and I'm not at a computer, but I believe that I incorporated the Board of Health changes and the Conservation Commission concerns all at once, and that sounds very familiar. That I changed or removed the leader for that.
Okay, very good. Amy, the website only has the plan dated, the plan that came in with the NOI. Did we receive an updated plan on this?
We did. I didn't get it up.
Okay, and that's fine. I just want to make sure we're.
Yeah.
That's why I thought we still had temporary stockpile. In terms of the sidewalk, sorry, refresh my memory. Who went on that sidewalk?
It was just Amy and I actually that day. We were
Anything to report there, Andrew?
No, it seems like everything's been addressed that we were concerned about. The stockpiling was eliminated, and I didn't see anything of concern on the site. It seemed pretty straightforward, and yeah.
And Amy, you were comfortable with the delineation?
Yes, yeah. And actually, I will say that a lot of the more like really large shrubs and trees that are coming down are invasive or non-native anyway. So just as happy to see
Yeah, they were. Yes, they were very large burning bush shrubs. So
Yeah.
How many trees are coming down?
There's that two are between 4 and 8 caliber.
Okay.
Other than that, everything's under 4.
Any other questions from the commission for the applicant or the applicant's representative? Okay, then the question here is what's the pleasure of the board? This is a request for determination.
would this be a -2 determination with a kind of sort of waiver? How does this work?
I forget, you're not in the buffers. No, you're not in the buffer zone, Ted.
We're outside the
You're not
50.
you're not in the 50. So it's just
perfect.
Right.
straight
They're
negative
within-
determination 3.
they're within the 100.
-3, is that right, Amy?
Yep.
Right. Let's see. I will make a motion that the board issue a -3 determination for 149 Tahadawan Road.
Second.
And motion's been made and seconded. Andrew, you want to hold the roll call?
Roll call vote. Okay. Let's see. Brian,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
Michael,
Bill Livingston, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gervig, aye.
All right, and myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Very good. Okay, we have an 8 o'clock coming up, but we've got a few minutes until that. And as long as we've got administrative items, I see we do have the applicants here for 67 Foster at 8 o'clock. But it's for those who have not joined us before, we generally want to wait until 8 in case members of the public join, especially if we have other things to go through. So we're going to go through some of our other administrative items, and then at 8 o'clock, we'll pick that up. Not that I think we expect a big public outcry here, but we want to give people the opportunity to so choose. So jumping back to the administrative discussion, look like next up, Amy, was Durkee KCOCs.
Yes, they're back in. They haven't actually submitted any yet, but Brian Goudreau asked if I wanted to do a site walk, which I will, but I don't know if anybody else wanted to be involved in those or not at this point. Theoretically, this should include the whole 9 yards, the drainage, all that stuff, as well as some of the individual houses.
Can you remind me, Amy, were these individual lot CO applications, or was this
Yeah, Durkee was individual lots and a separate one for the roadway and drainage. K was in 3 pieces. The Fur Lane was all one for the little stub and 5 houses back in there. And then phase, I'm not necessarily going to get the phases right. Phase 3, which include part of Douglas Road up in K, and then phase 4, which was the other end of Douglas Road. So it's all the houses and then some that are combined. And I don't think any of the some of the houses on Fur may have put in decks or patios or something without getting a permit. And I've been waiting on them on Hancock to do their as-bills. I don't think it's Hancock's issue, but I was waiting for the as-bill, which of course is taking longer than I thought before I chased them. And then up on Douglas, I think the only issue on Douglas is, I don't know if you'll remember the basin. If you go up to Douglas, it's at the left hand. That basin's been given a lot of trouble, but it is almost all stabilized. There's still a little corner.
So you've seen it recently, Amy, because that would be the one place I would like to see. That was
the one
bad
place
shape a couple times.
Yeah, and actually, I'd kind of like to get highway out there since they're going to be taking the basin, because it's a foot off the guy's house. I mean, it's as designed, but it's right there, and there is still jute netting on it, which isn't entirely grown through. When I did a quick drive through a week or two ago.
Certainly reading my mind, Amy, in terms of, I mean, I wouldn't mind going out simultaneously with highway to take a look at it.
Well, do you want to?
I'd like to go also if possible.
Yeah, do you want to circle back at the end of the meeting and see what site walks we think we might need to
Yeah, that makes sense.
do, and then throw that in? And I don't know if Sarah will be around, but she might be interested in going too, but she's probably not going to be.
Mhm.
So there were just three other things I wanted to add since we got a couple minutes. It's that time of year when you can designate commissioners to sign off on the accounts payable. Brian and Kyle have been doing it almost instantaneously when I sent out the request. So I don't know if they want to keep doing it. You guys want to nominate somebody else?
You just need a motion and a motion that
names.
carries to do that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to keep doing it, Amy.
Yeah, likewise. Unless somebody else is itching to to do the DocuSign.
Your
So
nominee.
Andrew, Michael, or Carl, you want to give us a motion to nominate Brian and Kyle to sign off on EP?
I move to have Brian and Kyle sign off on the thing that just escaped my mind.
Accounts payable,
Accounts
invoices.
payable.
Second.
Gotcha.
Motion's
All right.
been made and seconded. Go ahead.
Roll call vote. All right, Carl.
Tom Melberg, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle.
Am I allowed to say aye? Or,
Absolutely.
all right. Kyle Maxwell, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Chase.
Please go back up.
All right, and myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Amy, you said you had three things. That was number one.
Yeah, the second one is there is someone who wants to put up basically a maybe 30-foot long privacy fence, but it would be in the 50-foot no build. So, starter. But we were talking about landscaping instead. And I didn't know, because I tend to think of landscaping as just landscaping. This is in kind of lawn, naturalized sort of area. They're not going to be to do this. So I didn't know if anybody had any feelings one way or another. She would probably rather do the fence because she thinks it's going to be cheaper and more get her where she wants to be.
You know me, I'm pretty touchy about anything with it.
But would a row of hemlocks or some other native plant?
I wouldn't say it, and I don't mean to speak for everyone here. I'm not opposed to the idea, but I would also want to know how does she plan on planting them? You know, like it's going to come in with a bobcat and auger big holes to do that. You know, what are we planting? It's I wouldn't say, at least in my opinion, it's a non-starter, but I guess I would.
Yeah, I told her she would probably still need a permit, and then she asked if she wants them higher, can she put in a berm? I was like, no. So I will suggest she come in with what she wants. which is the fence, but be ready to back up to plantings and just see how it goes. Fair enough.
Amy,
And the
we'll move
last-
on. Oh,
this
let's move on
is-
to your third. Oh, is it quick?
Yeah, it's just the last one for me is the Monarch proposal. One Monarch, I'm not sure if any of you have seen that. It's in front of the planning board now. But the enhanced ENF has been submitted. I don't know if anybody had any interest in looking at it and commenting to MEP on it. It's just a little unusual that they haven't submitted with you guys yet. And it doesn't sound like being, as far as I can hear, plan on doing it soon.
I assume the turtles are going to be an issue back there again. We had, right?
Yeah, and actually, because I contacted Natural Heritage to see if they would be reaching out to you guys for comment, which I don't think they do, and they said no, they don't. But she also pointed out that Monarch has not applied to Natural Heritage yet.
Wow.
So like, okay, so if anyone feels like looking through that ENF, maybe I can just write them even just a short letter to MEPA saying, we haven't seen the filing yet. As far as we know, Natural Heritage hasn't seen a filing yet. I don't know if it's worth commenting on or not.
I mean, I think it depends on what's in it, right? Whether or not it's worth commenting.
It's all the basics. I mean, Oxbow Associates is doing the turtle stuff, so at least they have somebody reputable doing it. And I would tend to think, unless the commission really has some other knowledge, that you guys wouldn't be second guessing Natural Heritage if they do or don't issue the permit. They're taking
Yeah. If they want to drag their feet and not submit all of the stuff, that's on them. I wouldn't push them to.
Yeah.
And Amy, you said it's currently before the planning board?
Yeah, they've had 2, maybe 3 hearings. I think the planning board members are going out to walk it or at least look at it on their own. Nothing organized, from what I understand.
Would you mind to look into, understanding it's not before us, so the applicant before the planning board could tell us the pound sand. If we could go take a look at it simultaneously or during the same period of time the planning board is looking at it?
Yeah, because that's why I asked Marin, which is when she said they're just kind of doing it on their own. I think because you're going to want to look at the wetland line and maybe check where the conservation restriction boundaries are. I think we should just wait and do it when we got a group.
Okay.
But I think you can walk in there, drive in there anytime, and at least get an idea of the lay of the land.
My concern is it's before planning board, and then planning board's going to issue some permits or something, and then it's going to be, they're going to hand it to us and say, well, it's done. You guys,
Yeah,
leave this
you
alone.
can't change it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, which is why I was getting a little surprised that they haven't been in front of it.
And I mean, frankly, I wouldn't be remotely opposed to you or through Marin sending a note to the applicants to make it perfectly clear that the planning board can approve what they want, but the conservation commission it will not necessarily be beholden to that if it defies our needs and expectations.
And I think potentially the biggest part there is that they are doing a peer review for the stormwater and everything else. But it means you guys have no hand in that.
I thought that we're coordinating permitting in the town now.
Did you, Carl? No, usually we do, but it's obviously up to the applicant, how they want to handle it.
Well, the applicant should be told how to handle it.
Well, they have, I have mentioned to Marin, and they did come in for an informal a while back with myself and Marin, and maybe Ed Mullen was there too. I can't remember who all was there. And their team knows perfectly well what the commission issues are. It's not like they're trying to avoid those issues. And they heard the 50-foot no touch zone loud and clear. Where the heck were we? So I have had the discussion with Marin that, to make sure they understand that they're potentially at risk if they finish up with planning and then conservation or Board of Health or anybody else has issues. That changes things.
Okay.
Could we potentially get a volunteer from Conscom to attend the next planning board meeting where this is brought up? I guess simply to make sure to speak for the Conscom to the planning board members, not to the applicant, to make it clear that we haven't even seen an application at this point. And planning board can do with that as they see fit. But I think it would be worthwhile to have someone present to make that statement.
And I don't know when that is right now.
Is that something that the commission has an appetite for doing, or is that unnecessarily argument?
No, I think that makes sense. It might, because does the planning board even, they must be aware, obviously, like you said, that it should be coming in front of us, and maybe they'll can add a little pressure to say, hey, maybe we take a step back here until you submit permits to all of the appropriate boards in town.
Yeah, and I don't think you would need to comment on the project per se, just that.
Oh, right.
No,
yeah, I think that's what Chase is saying, right? Yeah, that sounds exactly what Chase is saying. Just an FYI, just so you guys are aware. We anticipate this is coming in front of us at some point, but it has not yet. So before you go making, final decisions, or I guess we don't even have to say that. Hopefully they can figure that out on their own.
It looks like they meet on the 14th. That doesn't sound right.
Tuesday?
I thought they met on Thursdays.
I think the open meeting law would allow us to communicate about that scheduling, so
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the planning board schedule and then make a decision about them.
Okay.
Okay, I apologize to the applicants for 67 Foster. And so now we'll open the 67 Foster continued public hearing for a notice of intent, Mass DEP file number 2040956. See, we've got a couple of new pieces of information, a new plan, as well as a letter from the applicants regarding, if they don't mind putting words in their mouth, the futility of invasive species control on that particular property. Matt, are you speaking on behalf of the applicants? It looks like we also have the applicants here.
No, it's Chris McKenzie.
Oh, is it Chris? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Chris McKenzie from Dillis and Roy here. I'll share my screen here. I got a copy of the plan up here with a little bit of color to it to help see what's going on. We've revised the plan slightly per our previous conversations and per Board of Health approval. They did approve the septic design plan at their last meeting. They did additionally, as the commission had asked for, want to see a small retaining wall run along the toe of the slope here between the system and the wetland area. So we have that wall shown. The deepest spot is probably right about here, where it might be 1.5 to 2 feet of height. We've shown the erosion control blankets for the 5 or 6 feet of steep slope that'll still remain there. So we've got the erosion control blankets for that area. I altered the erosion control barrier around the 18-inch spruce tree located here. So the barrier goes around the tree instead of including it in the work area. So the tree is now outside the work area. But we also call for a tree bumper to be put in front to protect the trunk from any damage. The 30-inch maple is well outside the work area. There's really only minor grading going on, probably about 10 or 15 feet from the tree, so that won't be a problem there. And obviously, we discussed this small tree down by the wetlands. That's questionable if it can survive the work that's going to go on right near it for the wall. It's a flowering tree. We weren't really able to get a clear identification of what kind of tree it is, but we proposed a new oak or willow or other type of native tree to be installed down in this location here, far enough from the septic system so it's not going to cause any trouble with the septic system, and also not too close to the wetlands. The erosion control barrier runs all the way around to protect the whole thing. You can see there's the 50-foot barrier and buffer zone, sorry, and the 100-foot buffer. I think that covers the majority of the revisions to the plan. Obviously, we submitted some commentary regarding the invasive species removal. We looked into that. The owner is here. He looked into it a little more carefully as well, not just on his property, but on the neighboring properties, and found it to be fairly widespread. And it would seem pretty fruitless to spend a lot of money and time on something like that on this individual area, if you will. Be happy to take any more questions or listen to any comments.
Any other members of the commission have comments for the applicant or questions for the applicant?
The Phragmites, when I looked at it, looked fairly contained behind the house. I mean, I didn't go back there and inventory it. Just from my broad perspective, it looked like it was pretty contained. You're saying that it extended over into the neighbor's property?
Yes, and the owner did go out back there, further back on his property, and viewed over into the neighbor's property. And we did send Amy some photographs that he had taken out there showing the reeds growing on the abutting properties. I don't know if Silas, if you'd like to speak on that matter at all.
Yeah, basically what you had just mentioned. Our property line is pretty close to the tree line that's right down there. And if you go down, when I walk the property and you follow the tree line, the reeds probably go 10 to 15 feet, maybe 20 feet into the southern property. And then in the northern property, they were maybe 5 feet over the property line, not a ton, but they were there. And I took a picture of each property line the best I could with my cell phone to try to illustrate where that was. And then I guess I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but the creek that goes back there comes from a pond that's just across the road south of the neighboring property. And that pond is also full of the same stuff. So I'm kind of assuming that that's where it came from to begin with. So not only is it on both neighboring properties, but it's also on a connected water source that I'd imagine transports seeds and stuff like that.
Any other thoughts there, Carl?
I mean, it's so close to the wetland with this project that my thought had always been, that there should be some benefit to the public because of this. I understand it's a septic system, but
yeah, it's a failing septic.
You're right up against, basically up against the edge of the wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if the Phragmites, you feel, I haven't taken a professional opinion on it, but I do think it would benefit the homeowner. I really think it would benefit the homeowner to get those Phragmites out of there, and it would benefit the town to have fewer Phragmites, basically.
I mean, I don't know what the scope of a project like that is. We're probably talking like 5,000 or 6,000 square feet of these plants. And I mean, I'm open to, I probably will do something with it while I live here. I've never dealt with wetland situation like this before. And I am not opposed to doing some kind of, but I feel like that's a separate issue. I bought a house. The state says I need a septic system. I don't feel like this quid pro quo should be going on with something that really has nothing to do with my septic system. This is already costing us quite a bit of money, and these repeated meetings for revisions and stuff this is adding up more than, that's another major part of this, but I'm willing to work with the Conservation Committee on something, but I don't want to tie these invasive species mitigation to whether or not I'm allowed to have a septic system. I feel like that should be two separate things that we could discuss.
I believe the public benefit of this project is a septic system that's no longer going to be contaminating groundwater. And if you look at the plan carefully, the existing leach area is actually about 15 feet from the wetlands. So we're moving the septic system about 5 feet further from the wetlands than the existing one is. And we're creating a 4-foot groundwater separation where currently they have 0. So I think there's a lot of public benefit to this project going forward as designed.
Any other comments from the commission on this? Carl, my take on it is that I don't love it. I'm comfortable seeing my way through the public benefit component of this, setting aside the fact that maybe long ago obviously this project couldn't be constructed under our current regulations. And this does pose a public benefit. It's hard to separate for me as well the fact that there was something here that really probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. But I struggle with holding the current property owners responsible for that. What's the pleasure of the board here?
It's definitely a very close situation, but given that the conditions are improving and there's a public health benefit, I'm comfortable moving ahead with issuing the permit. Should I make a motion?
Yeah.
Well, real quick. So I can appreciate the invasive species issue that you're dealing with, or not necessarily dealing with on your property. I live pretty close to the neighborhood. I know exactly the pond that you're talking about that is very much overrun with invasives at this time of year. Having said that, I think you said it yourself. It's something that you are likely going to have to deal with in the near future. You just bought this house. I imagine you don't have no intentions of leaving within the next few years. It still seems like a worthwhile effort for you to start to try to mitigate in your yard. At least I wouldn't ask you to obviously leave your property or cover 5,000 square feet. But I would say, just from experience in my own yard and seeing people around town, that it's something you should try to stay ahead of anyway. It's not something you should say, I don't think these go hand in hand. It should be, they should be something that you kind of want. And I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with that statement, but it should be something you want to try to stay ahead of anyway. It's only going to get worse and be more complicated for you to deal with in the future, right?
Oh yeah, and I've already this weekend I spent 3 or 4 hours or more weeding knotweed from between the properties that's close to that as well. It's not something I plan to ignore and let it encroach on my backyard even more because and lose more land to this. Right. As it is. It is something I do plan to deal with, and I don't plan to sit idle and let it just get even worse. I mean, obviously I don't know what it was like years ago. It's only been here a few months, but
yeah, no, that's good to hear. And I'm glad to hear that you're as awful as knotweed is, you're trying to deal with that too, because that's the one I struggle with in my yard, and it's not fun. So,
Kyle, are you proposing some sort of limited requirement for, the homeowner to undertake like a manual removal?
yeah,
or
I mean,
is that
in all honesty, Chase, and I don't know the applicant, but hearing what he's saying, kind of a good faith effort. It sounds like he's aware of doing. If he's already working on pulling out knotweed, then I don't know if it's necessary to have a requirement. I was just trying to get some 2 cents in there and make sure he knows it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, right? So, and he clearly seems to understand that. So, having heard that, I'm much more comfortable than getting shrugged off. If the board thinks that we should put some sort of a statement in there that says he tries to clear something, some X amount of square feet or something each year, then I'd be okay with that too. But I don't know what everybody else is comfortable with. I'm pretty comfortable hearing that he's actively working in the yard already. I imagine the knotweed is actually within. Well, yeah, if it's on your property, it's within the buffer zone, right? So
Yeah, it goes between the maple and up toward the road, basically. and there's actually knotweed out behind the. I can't remember what it's called, but out on the farther end of that grass stuff that's growing.
I believe your neighbor, your butter, has come in front of us and was looking into the possibility of using, goats, or I think she actually was thinking pigs.
He warned me about it after I bought the property, but before it all had come in, we had a lengthy conversation about trying to deal with it. I didn't know what knotweed was at the time. I knew once I saw a picture of it, I knew what it was, but I couldn't picture what he was talking about. But the second I Googled it, I was like, oh man, that's between there. Because I've dealt with that before in other property growing up and stuff. But anyways. Sorry.
I do think one thing to note for the homeowner is that to the extent that you want to undertake a more extensive invasive species control endeavor, that's actually something that probably should come back before us, particularly if you need to go out there and use mechanical equipment, pesticide, etc.
Yeah, and I'd be, aside from all of this, the septic and everything, I'm probably going to need some kind of advice or aside from Google, I suppose. And literally going and cutting it down, I don't know if there's better mitigation stuff, but
join the conservation trust and teach you all about taking care of this.
Maybe, yeah.
And you could certainly make it a finding that there was this discussion and the owner is going to be moving ahead with hand removal of invasive species. So at least that part of the work is covered. But if you want to do more, like get someone in there to mow it or spray it, that would be a new permit, a new discussion. Does that maybe help get a bump?
Yeah.
And to be clear, a permit with a much lower bar than what you've gone through for the second. Just I don't want to scare people away from the invasive species.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea, Amy. Making it a finding, and noting that we've had this conversation, the applicant's aware.
You know where to find us. Yeah, you don't want the Japanese knotweed getting into your system or your foundation. So,
all right, Andrew, have at it.
All right, I will make a motion to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 67 Foster Street, DEP file number 204-0956 with the mentioned, what do we call it, a footnote or
finding.
And with the associated waiver.
Second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase.
Chase Fairweather.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Very good. Good luck.
All right, thank you very much.
Good luck.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're a few minutes behind schedule here. Next up is 22 Woodland Drive. Replace redevelopment of a single-family home and associated utilities and access. I'll turn it over to the applicant. Nick, are you speaking on behalf of the applicant?
Sure, how you doing? Nick Paulin from Goldsmith Preston Ringwall. We're here back. If you don't mind, I can share my screen.
Yep.
So we had come before you the last hearing, giving you an update on revisions that were coming. Since then, we've revised the plan and provided that. I'll take you through if everyone can see the plan. Good.
Yep.
So the first thing that we did is we continued the wetland line. Originally it stopped at wetland flag 1. It continued down to the south to B1, 2, 3, and continued on towards the southeastern corner of the property. Once that was established, what we also did is survey locate those as well as the general area. This hatch stippling area here, approximately 1,700 square feet of area that's generally has disturbance within the wetlands from just kind of human activity. We also quantified the limits of the large knotweed stand here, which is approximately about 1,000 square feet, half in wetland, half in the buffer. We've revised the septic component standpoint of, we've been back to the Board of Health. They have granted the waivers that we're asking for over here on the right hand side of the page. To grant those waivers, one of them that changed was we've revised the leaching area to have a 3-foot offset to groundwater rather than a 2. Another change is a proposed hybrid foundation where there will be a portion here of a crawl space rather than a full depth foundation. Other changes that we've made to the plan is we've identified a couple of things that the commission mentioned. One was the partially buried PVC pipe that looks like it used to be a downspout leader, which is this gray line here. We actually have a call to take that out of the ground prior to the installation of the erosion controls just by hand. We've also identified the tree stump here and adjusted the erosion control around it accordingly. Another revision to the plan is we've actually provided a series of 400-pound boulders along the limit of work. And then we've also provided picking up from this property corner along this southern limit just to try to provide a hard edge to further deter any human encroachment into this wetland area. So as part of all this, we've actually added a second rehabilitation restoration seed mix for within the wetlands areas. We've continued to add the knotweed invasive removal part, and what we've also done, Chase, is we've tried to quantify what we believe are the net benefits for granting of the waiver, which, just running through real quick, as we know, this yellow dash line is the 50-foot no disturb. The proposed house is mirroring the existing structure. New square footage is this 8x10 deck, or 80 square feet. We feel that providing one just under 2,300 square feet of restoration of buffer zone restoration, which includes this area here, a portion of the knotweed extending up. That number does not include this area that's actually in the Ivy Road right-of-way. So it's actually more of a substantial number of restoration of buffer zone. 2 almost 1,700 square feet of rehabilitation or restoration of wetland area, almost just under 1,000 square feet of invasive plants, the provisions of groundwater or roof recharge to reduce runoff, and the hard landscape boulders to prevent further encroachment after the development is done. That was the quickest I could possibly do that, but I can certainly answer any questions that the commission has.
One thing we had discussed, Nick, was potentially some signage on the boulders or something like that. Where did we get to with that?
We're not currently calling out for that. due to the size of the boulders at their spacing at 10 feet, we feel that they're going to be naturally kind of assigning themselves. We're open to signage, but with the restoration, the significant restoration of not only the wetland, but the knotweed area and then the current lawn area, you know, it would feel, maybe this is just my engineering mind, to be kind of awkward to be maintaining an area, a restoration area, and ensuring that knotweed doesn't come back past the sign that says don't do anything past the sign. But we're still open if it's the pleasure of the commission.
So is there new construction within the 50?
There's a 8x10 deck proposed, yes. Within the existing lawn area.
It's within the 50.
Correct. Half the house is within the 50.
That's something that we haven't been permitting in the past. We've been holding that line pretty strictly, pretty strongly. And we shouldn't be looking at mitigation for something. We should be looking at avoidance first.
I can understand that, but again, as a support and granting of the waiver, if you look at the net benefit or the net improvements of the environment as listed on this plan, you have almost a 10-to-1. That includes the existing house. The existing house has 440 square feet or so within the 50-foot. If you add the 80, you're at 520. If you add up all those numbers up top, you're almost at 5,000.
Again, I'm not personally interested in mitigation unless it's absolutely necessary. But previous applicants, we've held this very strongly. So I have a problem with this.
Any other commissioners have comments?
Yeah, is it okay if I say something?
Go ahead, John.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, can hear you fine.
Yeah, so listen, I'm doing everything I can without changing the footprint of the existing 4-bedroom house. I'm keeping the two sides where they are. That deck is not only on two sonotubes, but it's also in a grassy area, and it can serve as a second means of egress for that dwelling. There is no second means of egress coming off of that back where the septic system is required to go. So we're doing the mitigation as a form of also, so we have a second means of egress for that building. I'm not looking for anything special. I'm trying to put the house back right where it is, exactly where it is, with the least amount of disturbance to that area as possible. I'm gonna have to be in there with equipment to take the cesspool out that's right next to those footings. So to put two precast concrete footings in there, I am barely disturbing the area.
One question, Sean, if that's going to be a means of egress, are you proposing stairs off of that deck?
I haven't talked that far with Ed Mullen about what's going to be required for the second means of egress. He's given me ideas off of the deck and also off of possibly through the garage. So we don't know which way we have to go yet. Again, I'm working with a really tiny footprint here to get the same house put back on the same property with, you know, without changing two of the sides of the houses.
I do want to be clear here. If we were to approve something if we were to improve the plan in front of us that doesn't currently show stairs, it would be, I don't think the commission would consider that to be a red line change, given that any additional work on that deck would be work within the 50.
But yeah.
One other question about that deck, Sean, and maybe Nick. Is it feasible at all to put that deck on the southern portion of the property rather than on the southern portion of the building rather than on the eastern portion of the building? Or is that inhibited by the location of the septic?
Well, we're still inside of the 50 there. So it's like a, you know, and then now you'd be putting footings down inside the edge of the septic system. So, and in between the pump chamber and the force main going up to the septic. I obviously, yes, I'll take that if that's the answer, but you're still inside the 50. So that's why I'm before the commission is to you know, to do it right. And the other thing too is this property, it's the whole yard looks off to the left of this house. So I'm putting this house in, and if they're out there grilling on their deck or whatever, they're enjoying their property too. I mean, that's a huge piece of property to not be able to look out at.
Yeah, I think that's where I would agree with Chase that that it wouldn't be a red line change if you were deciding that all of a sudden you want stairs. All of a sudden adding, I get that you're talking of a means of egress, but putting stairs on the back of that deck instantly just turns into an access point to the wetlands and inside the buffer and people playing in the wetland area and on the grass that you've brought back.
Would it work at the north end of the house where the infiltration bed is, which is outside the 50?
No, there's zoning setback requirements on that side.
From what?
The property line.
Up by the garage? Yeah. Oh, there's a line. Okay, sorry. I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
The right of way is very deceiving on this property.
I mean, I feel like my engineer's got a pretty solid plan here for, you know, a ton of restoration and a ton of hand picking of knotweed and killing the knotweed. And I mean, I'm doing everything that we can here. And I guess I need, you know, I need somewhere to go. I just can't keep going on and on, you know, just like the last contestant. I mean, this adds up quite a bit, time after time after time.
I'll say normally I would agree that we want to avoid mitigation. My threshold for starting to contemplate mitigation is on the order of a 10-to-1 ratio. And frankly, I've thrown that out there for other applicants or other informal consultations in the past. So this is one where I can get my head around the net public benefit associated with the waiver, because what they're doing is not a triviality.
The problem is, Chase, is that we've denied other applicants the same exact thing.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't see how we can allow something that we've denied in the past. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me.
It's not apples to apples, right? I mean, I know we use this word precedence and setting precedence, but as far as I'm concerned, we're looking at site by site, and you know what the most recent one that came in front of us, they just wanted a deck there. that was their only answer. You know, I'm leaning more towards what Chase is saying, where you're putting up a 10-to-1 ratio here. That's I would love to see everybody trying to do this. You know.
So the problem you're opening up the can of worms is that what is the precedent? Like, what is it? Do you allow, you know, how much mitigation is allowed in order to get something like this? That's the problem, is that all of a sudden, you know, you can get something through with mitigation, but what's the baseline for that? It starts to get cloudy and confusing.
I also think, if you don't mind, I also think I'm also cleaning up the Ivy Road section, which when you guys did the walkthrough, you can see people have been dumping all the railroad ties and trash and everything. I mean, I'm doing a lot of work here to get outside of this property to you know, make it better for public benefit.
So the only other thing I can offer, Carl, is, you know, it's not a precedent of file for a new structure within the 50 and plant some trees. I think the plan in front of you is a comprehensive permit for a total site redevelopment. It's not an existing house where nothing else is going on, and you know they want to expand and put on a deck without kind of thinking the yin and the yin and the yang, or the balance of the environmental concerns as well as the Board of Health concerns and the zoning concerns. So I don't disagree with anything. I just don't think that you're poking a hole in your regulations or opening a door to other applicants by granting or voting in favor of this application.
The one question I have here is, Amy, do we have any mechanism so that the applicant is demarcated or separated the sort of wetland and protected area of their property with boulders? Do we have any recourse if the property owner buys this from Sean and says, those are great boulders, but I don't want them, throws them into gets rid of them and we go back? Do we have any way of memorializing that in the long term after the
that's the old issue of that would be a condition in perpetuity that would go beyond the certificate of compliance, so it's always there. And as many attorneys I've talked to, it's only as good as anybody who reads that. But it does mean that it is there, and if they get rid of them, it's an enforcement order.
And then I guess here I would argue that, and we've had this problem in the past, and I don't mean to single you out, Sean, but where that information never gets transferred to the next property owner. Now, I understand you can't control the subsequent property owner, but I would like to put some kind of requirement in here, if this went forward, that before you transfer the property, the new property owner needs to meet with Amy to review what their certificate of compliance says, or their order of conditions says, rather. In other words, I will not accept ignorance of the new property owner because they didn't understand what they were signing.
So Chase, that being said, I'm not a lawyer either, but is it possible, Amy, Chase, where I could tell, what if I just did a deed restriction that says these boulders need to remain on the property where they're at?
So I'm not a lawyer, but I like to pretend I'm one sometimes.
Okay, tell us.
And as a perpetual condition within the order of conditions, if Sean and his lawyer is actually subject to it, when he sells this property to the new person, he can also list in the deed that the property is subject to a no disturb zone established by the boulders placed on site. We could also provide an exhibit with a approximate bearing of that line. And that way it's actually in the deed that it doesn't go away. It's not perpetual. It's not a question of what's perpetual or how it's written on the lawyer's standpoint. It's established.
And I would have to double check the wording, but I believe that is what is on all the deeds for Wellington Circle, for all those monuments.
Oh, right.
It's pretty much the same idea. Now, the beauty of 400-pound boulders is they can't move them easily.
Not without equipment.
And it is a standard condition that if the property sells before the certificate of compliance is issued, the new owner has to come in. Again, only as good as anybody who reads it, because I don't necessarily know when something sells.
Carl, does that get you any closer to comfortable, or still pretty uncomfortable with this?
No, it doesn't bring me any more comfort, but I mean, you guys can move ahead.
Amy, speaking just for myself, this is an order of conditions that I think I'd like to see before we issue it, just to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just trying to think of, and I have no idea what the layout of the house is like. Is it putting the deck on the north side would mean going to the ZBA?
No, north side, yes.
On the north side, yeah.
Yes.
And also the front door is there. Nick, put your cursor on the front door.
I mean, the only other place it would be possible would be here, but again, you're walking in your front door. It's still in the 50.
What happens if you're told that the second means of egress needs a set of stairs? Because we don't know that yet.
I have the garage as an option, I think. I'm pretty sure that I can use the garage.
If he needs another set of stairs, then he would have to come outside the 50 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not very excited about that as a means of egress, the deck.
The deck was just put there because that's the end of the kitchen cabinets.
Understood. No, I mean as stairs and so on down from that area. From the deck, if you were to propose a change to this that included stairs off that deck, I think that would be a tough one.
We hear the commission loud and clear, but stairs are not part of the application, and we understand that if they become part of it, it's going to be a whole other conversation.
Okay. Any other comments here? You get a motion from the motion. Not everybody all wants it.
I'll move that we close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 22 Woodland Drive, Mass DEP file number 204-0961.
Second.
Waiver?
You should reference it.
And the waiver, I'm sorry. And associated waiver.
Bill, second.
Second. All right, roll call vote. Let's see, Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Chase.
Just for the,
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl.
Commonberg, no.
And myself, aye. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ayes and 1 no.
good. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 5 Scott Road, Mass DEP file.
I just want to say thank you guys, and Amy, if you wouldn't want to work with that wording on the boulder things or whatever, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, let me check what Wellington Circle has and I can send that over to you.
All right, thank you, commissioners.
Enjoy your night.
All right. 5 Scott Road, review of wetland restoration. Is the applicant here to speak to that?
Good evening, everybody. Matt Morrow representing 5 Scott Road. Amy, I'm assuming I'm permitted to share my screen?
Please do.
Okay. Just give me 1 sec. You guys know how rapid fire I am in this screen sharing. Okay. Can you all see that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So these pictures were actually taken this afternoon. And what it's showing is that, you know, if you zoom in and you're looking at the cove, you can see that you've got a variety of plants that were already there that are establishing themselves. You've got cattails. If you go down and you look at the grasses that are there, you've got the canary grass that's established itself. I mean, you've got a couple of other types of wetlands grasses and sedges that have established themselves. Like foul manna grass, for example, has established itself. If I go over, look at it from this side, you can see you've got your tall ferns and your speckled alder that have started filling back in when previously this area had been cut out. These areas have been cut out. You have some facultative goldenrods that aren't too great a number, but you know, they are facultative plants. that have been coming in, and in the area down at, excuse me, I'm sorry, down at the bottom of the slope that was shown on the plans ahead of the cove. This is basically what you have. You have a variety of common sedge. You have a variety of the wetlands grasses I've named previously. Everything is growing in quite lush. I'm very pleased with what I've seen in the area. It was really tough to get it established at first because the first time we were trying to grow it was the year we had the drought. Since then, last year, I replanted. We had plenty of rains. So it gave it a good opportunity to really establish itself. With that, I would like to basically close this out and submit for a certificate of compliance. Thoughts, questions, smoke signals?
Matt, how does the area behind this look? So to the back of you, when you take this photo, kind of back into your left, right? There was a lot of grading that happened back there as well.
Yeah, I mean, the area, this is the area where the grading happened, that we removed the grading and reestablished the wetland. There was another area going up the hill, for the road. That wasn't part of the wetland that was filled. That area is stable. The gravel area going down there is stable. There's no erosion. There's no siltation. There's nothing coming there. Everything is stabilized quite nicely.
Thanks.
So, Amy, for this monitoring, do we require any vegetative plots at all, or can we just go with how he's shown us in pictures for the record?
Not a plots per se, I don't think required, but there should be a report with a listing of the plants and what was planted and what's growing. And I assume some of you might want to do a site walk.
I mean, overall, just from the pictures, it seems like it's doing really well, and it seems like it's all coming together. But I just didn't know it was required.
There should be a monitoring report.
Yeah, I mean, I'll write it up. That's. Pardon me, my camera's pointed at a funny angle, but yeah, I don't have a problem with that. That's easy enough to do. I can do that in a day.
Well, I don't imagine we're going to take action on this until we have that. So let's make that at least one of the action items.
All right, so can we put it on for the next meeting?
So, to the commission, is there appetite for a site walk here?
I personally don't think I need to.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I agree with Carl. I imagine, Amy, you'll check it out.
I do. I'll go.
Yeah, I've been to that site a couple times, and so I can envision what those photos are showing compared to what was there. Trust Amy, obviously.
Just call me, Amy.
Okay.
I'll meet you down there.
Thank you, Amy.
Then, are there any other requests of the applicant besides the report? If not, we'll continue this to the next meeting.
No, I appreciate the time on this and the patience. I know it's been a long road, but I'm very pleased. Yeah, everybody that worked on this combined did a really nice job. I was very happy with the way it came out.
I think you've done a good job, Matt. I know this was challenging in a lot of ways for you, but I think you've made it through.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. We'll continue this to the next meeting. That brings us then to 107 Matawanaki, construction of single-family house and septic system. My understanding is that the site is now staked, although we were notified of that yesterday. And so, having conducted a site walk, turn it over to the applicant. I assume, Matt, you're going to be speaking for the applicant here, but I think our primary order of business is going to be to schedule a site walk. Matt, and you want to brief us on anything there that we haven't already covered with respect to this site?
So essentially, what we have here is, again, as I had stated at the previous meeting, we have a request to construct a single-family home on a lot that has been.
Matt, can I stop you here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have anything, and I don't mean to be rude, but do you have anything new to show us? We just don't really need to rehash the project. What we need to do is go out there and see it. If you've got something new that you want us to consider when we go out to do the sidewalk, happy to talk about it. But if we're just going to rehash the project, we can go take a look at it and then discuss it 2 weeks from now. I apologize for being a little bit forward.
No, it's not a problem. I believe I made the case at the last meeting about the fact that the lot was established in 49. I did go out and I reflagged the wetland that Leah Basbane previously flagged. It's in the exact same location. I found no difference in the wetland itself. So, I mean, my client is looking for a decision. He feels that he will do whatever it takes to protect this area. He's got areas in here he's willing to discuss whatever you guys want to talk about with the building, plantings. Just wants to know from each of you what you want.
I think it's hard for us to
interject, and I believe you guys saw the note from the abutter just basically pointing out that there right now is no agreement about the well, and you'll see the well radius is still on here. So for any number of reasons, that's still shown on there.
Matt, I want to be really clear about what you were requesting. Are you requesting that we close this hearing tonight? Or are you requesting that we continue it and give the Conservation Commission an opportunity to perform the study?
Well, Amy, did you say something about the abutter saying there was no agreement?
Yes. I believe there may have been back and forth about the language, but I don't think it's been finalized. And obviously this still shows the well radius on it.
So again, Matt, I need to come back to this question because this will dictate which direction we go with. Are you, on behalf of the applicant, requesting that we close this hearing?
Can I have a moment to confer with my client?
You want to have a minute? Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on one sec, guys.
Amy, do you think it's out of order if we take up just a quick administrative thing while Matt's confirming with this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you need to do anything administrative, guys, while I talk to my client, please feel free.
Yep, you got probably 5 minutes, Matt. There were a couple of things on my administrative list, and one, this occurred to me after our meeting last week with respect to Cobb's Pond, and that's that the water department is seeking some modifications to the deed. Right now, typically we use town council to do that. The water department also uses town council. The question I have for the commission is, should we ask Amy and should we confer with the town administrator about separate council to support the Conservation Commission that is different from council that is supporting the water department in this process?
Yes. Absolutely. Doesn't make sense not to.
Great.
Although I'm not exactly sure what the setup is, because I believe, at least in the past, the water department have their own council and they were working with Mary's Harrington, who is representing the town, not the water department. But it's obviously very close right now because they're in deep discussions. But I can.
Okay, I guess my understanding from that meeting a couple of weeks ago was that Mary's and Harrington was presenting it. It looked like on behalf of the water department, and so
that is kind of
a little concerned that we're not arm's length right now. So Amy, could we ask you to run that down with the town administrator?
Yeah, I will talk to him about that and maybe also reach out to Tom Harrington and see what he has to say about it.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Chase.
It's not that I don't like town council; they're really nice, but
I get it.
Both sides. The second was Amy. I wondered if you could give us an update on where we got to with Cooper.
About what?
Cooper and the enforcement order out there and the fine that we had authorized you to implement if appropriate.
Yep, I went out there. I guess it was the next day. It was all stabilized. There was nothing discharging from the basin, and they had previously regraded the trail through there and actually tried to cut back some of the invasive species in the area. So I did not. I talked to Sarah and did not issue any fines and penalties on there. I have not been out there recently because I know they've been trying to discharge basin 4, which is the last basin. And they will, unless they've already submitted it to Green, I believe they owe like a O-ring test or something, some new infiltration test to show that those basins are working. It is complicated by the fact that basin 3, which is the one that is discharging, is town maintenance now, town owned now, because they accepted the road.
Amy, did that basin have any water in it when you were out there?
The basin of concern, basin 3, had some water in it because the plug was in, but they were discharging through it. So it wasn't rain input, it was input from basin 3. And I have not been out there to see if they have dried up basin 4 yet. And then I'd also somehow want to be concerned about the fact that if they're taking the sediment from basin 4 and just throwing it into basin 3.
Sounds like there's a good possibility of that happening.
Yeah, that sounds like something the town would be interested in beyond just.
Yeah.
So I think at some point I want to try to get Steve Yonley out both there and over at Douglas to take a look at these things.
But in terms of the narrower scope that is our enforcement order, you're satisfied with the stability and restoration that's going on?
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
It is still, the enforcement order is still out there. And whatever the hell the final resolution is going to be for getting the certificate of compliance, basically, is the next step.
Okay. Any other questions on Cooper? Next administrative thing I had was if you could just give us a quick update on the posting for the assistant. Did we get any applications? Did we get any applications that are?
No, I'm afraid to ask. It's open until Friday.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep my mouth shut and see what we get.
So I still have a couple days to polish up my.
Yeah, there's like at least 20 positions open right now.
I'm worried that we're just not gonna.
So yeah, it's hard, part-time, no benefit.
20 positions open in the town?
No, in the state for conservation agents and assistants.
Oh, for assistants, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of competition out there right now for everything, including, God help us, conservation agents.
Well, don't jump ship on us for a better deal.
Yeah, so I should move on for the big bucks. Yeah.
She's not getting a better deal, Carl. It's as good as it gets.
Oh, is that what it is? I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Fourth item on my agenda is timing of in-person meetings. Those kick back in July. Is that right, Amy, or has anything changed there? Just looking for an update on.
Yeah, it is July 15th. It came up at one of the last department head meetings, and there is certainly rumor that the governor will extend it into the fall or winter. I don't know if that's true or not, and I expect it to be last minute again. Are you enjoying your porch there, Carl? Where are you?
I'm in Maine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I'm not with Sarah, by the way. I'm at my own camp.
Well, the loon's kind of a giveaway. So I think I don't have anybody yet who has, is looking at the July dates. But I think we're just gonna have to do maybe a last minute shuffle when it's time to actually post after July 15th to see if it's live or tape or, yes.
Okay. So we have a few weeks to sort it out, but not that.
Right, because pretty soon people will be applying for those dates.
Okay, looks like the applicants for 107 Matawanaki is back. Matt, want to update us on where you stand here?
Okay, well, just a couple of quick questions. On that issue regarding the water supply, Amy, when you would call the neighbor, did he say there were still talks going on, or he wasn't going to do anything, or because I'm confused? I just want to make sure that I know exactly what's going on here, because did he seem amenable to doing the well?
Hang on, Matt. Just to be clear, that Conscom is not going to get involved in that negotiation. I'm happy to have Amy tell you what language was in the letter. That's a matter of public record, but whether he seemed or didn't seem amenable is outside of what we can really.
Okay.
Amy, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually don't have it in front of me, but basically, I believe he seemed amenable to it, but it's not in place yet.
Okay. All right. And I mean, again, in speaking to my client, for clarity's sake, when this lot was preformed, there was no, were there any other regulations in effect when this lot was formed in 49? Excuse me for bending over here, but my cat started going at me. I had to swat her away.
Matt, with all due respect, the regulations in place in 1949.
I'm sorry, Chase, you cut out there on my, it's probably my.
I said with all due respect, the regulations that were in place in 1949 are not relevant.
Okay, so Chase, I've spoken to my client at length, and yeah, we're going to continue this so we can do a site walk. So you guys can take a look at the property. We can talk, maybe work something out, see what we can do here. Okay. So I'd like to be with you guys when you do that. My schedule's pretty flexible over the next week. So, you know, Amy, whenever you can work something out with these guys, throw out some dates, whatever you want, just let me know.
I would propose, Matt, that we try and set a date and time right now if you're amenable.
That's fine by me.
Yeah.
And pull up my handy dandy calendar that I'm so rapid fire set on drawing.
And was the house and the deck and the septic system staked, or just the house and system?
As far as I know, and I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, everything was staked. And I'm not being corrected. So
tomorrow,
everything was staked, and there's fresh wetland flags down there.
Yeah. Wednesday looks rainy.
And Wednesday looks very rainy.
Good.
Speaking just to my schedule, Thursday is off the table. Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday are generally viable.
Well, Friday I'm pretty wide open.
Could do Friday also.
When on Friday?
Amy, are you
guys
available
tell
on
me.
Friday?
I usually try to schedule Fridays off. It never happens.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, sorry, Amy. Amy, what do you think of Friday? Feel free to veto it if you're not available. I think it's important that you're there as well.
No, Friday's fine. Just like not before 8 a.m.
Sure. What do you guys think of the end of the day? Early or late? What's the pleasure?
Prefer earlier.
Like-
Or I'm
like-
available earlier.
Like noonish, you mean, or?
Yeah, something like that. Not, I'd be unavailable after 3:30 or after 3 probably.
Don't interfere with Kyle's happy.
If happy hour
Friday
is
at
getting the kids
6:30
off the bus,
a.m.?
then sure.
Friday at noon.
How about Friday at 6:30 a.m.? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, bye.
I could make that. Yeah.
And
How about
Matt,
1 o'clock? Is 1 o'clock okay?
it doesn't fly for me, unfortunately.
Does 1 o'clock work or?
Can anybody besides Kyle make it at 1? Is 1 o'clock okay for you?
Schedule around me. I mean, yeah, I'm open all day Friday until
Yeah,
3.
I am as well.
Chase, are you available any other time on Friday? Or is it just-
I am available
not-
between, I just need to be back staring at my computer by 1 o'clock. So I've got a window between 11 a.m. and 1, and then after 4 p.m., which sounds like that's off the table. I could also do before 10 a.m. on Monday.
Would our typical noon work, Matt? Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Does that give you enough time, Chase?
Yeah, that'll work. I mean, if I got to jet out of there 10 minutes early. So. Yeah, so Friday at noon.
Sounds good.
And then Matt, would it be okay if the other commissioners want to go out there on their own and see if they can at least see the lay of the land, if not actually get a tour?
Yeah, right now I'll tell you I don't see a problem with that. I'm just confirm it with my client and let you know.
We can talk about that Friday.
Okay. So the understanding is right now, Conservation Commission members won't go out there independently until that's confirmed by you on Friday.
Yes. And then why don't I arrange something for Durkee K next week? And maybe Matt, you and I can stop off at 5 Scott after this Friday at noon.
Okay.
Does that work? Let me know if that works.
It should. I'll double check my schedule, but it should. I'm pretty wide right now.
Or just before, but yeah.
You mean like 6:30 a.m.?
No, that's not what I mean at all, Matt. Thank you. I'll meet you out there. You wait for me.
Okay.
Okay, I think that covers the business we have with 107 Mattawanakee. Open it up to the other conservation members, the applicant. Anything else we need to cover here with 107? Shaking that. Okay. Then we'll move on from that. And then my understanding is our last agenda item, 9A, is continuing. Is that right?
Yes, they asked for continuance.
Very good. Granted. Anything else we need to cover tonight?
I think we got it. Anybody else have anything?
I'll look for the most important motion of the night.
Motion to adjourn.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thanks, Matt.
Hi, Matt. Second.
Right, roll call vote. Carl.
Kyle Melberg, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxiel, aye.
Chase.
Chase Fairbank, aye.
Brian.
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Myself, aye. We're adjourned.
So Chase, did I miss the story? Are they making you go back to the office? Is that why you're all cleaned up?
No, I